This lesson is Chapter 6, Lesson 5. We're going to look at adding and subtracting fractions when they have different denominators, so unlike denominators. My first problem is 2/5 plus 3/7. I can't do anything with this problem because the denominators are not the same. We need to have common denominators before we do anything with our fraction solving. And remember, common denominators is for addition and subtraction of fractions. So let's solve this problem. So the problem was 2/5 plus 3/7. In lesson 4, we talked about a couple different ways that you could use to get a common denominator. You could multiply the two denominators together, or you could find the least common denominator. And when you find the least common denominator, normally then that means there's less simplifying to do of your final answer, because remember, we need to have our answer in simplest form. So that means that the only number that can be divided into the top and bottom is 1. So I'm going to find the LCD. I'm going to go through and find my least common denominator for these denominators. So I have 5 and I have 7. So 5 times 1 is 5, times 2 is 10, times 3 is 15, times 4 is 20, times 5 is 25, times 6 is 30, times 7 is 35. Erase this and bring this down. All right, so now I'm at 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Times 3 is 21. Times 4 is 28. Times 5 is 35. And I have a common multiple here. I have 35 and I have 35. So I'm going to make my new denominator 35. So I'm asking myself, 2/5 equals what number over 35? Because now I need to find my equivalent fractions. So I know that 5 times 7 gives me 35. So what I do to the bottom, I do the exact same thing to the top. So now I'm at 2 times 7, and that equals 14. So now if I go to 3/7, I'm saying that equals something over 35. So 7 times 5 got me to 35. So what I do to the bottom, I do the exact same thing to the top. So 3 times 5 is 15. Now, when I go to write my new problem, I'm using the equivalent fractions. So I'm going to rewrite my new problem as 14 over 35, because that's what my equivalent fraction to 2/5 was, plus 15 over 35. So now when I solve this, as long as my denominators are the exact same, which they should, I keep my denominator the same. And then I just add the top. I say 14 plus 15. So 4 plus 5 is 9. 1 plus 1 is 2. So 29/35 is my answer. Let's look at a subtraction problem. I have 9/10 minus 1/4. So I can't do anything until I find a common denominator, because these are different denominators. So I'm going to use my listing strategy. I'm going to find the LCD, the least common denominator. And I'm going to pull out the 10, and then I'm going to pull out the denominator 4. I'm going to start multiplying and finding their multiples. 10 times 1 is 10, times 2 is 20, times 3 is 30, times 4 is 40. So I'm going to move down here to the 4. 4 times 1 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3 is 12, times 4 is 16, times 5 is 20, times 6 is 24, times 7 is 28, times 8 is 32, times 9 is 36. I'm almost there. 4 times 10 is 40. So I know that 40 is my LCD. It's my least common denominator. And remember, I could have also just multiplied the denominators together, 10 times 4, and got 40. So now I'm going to go over here and find my equivalent fractions. 9/10 equals something over 40. And do my other one, 1/4 equals something over 40. So now I need to find my equivalent fractions. I'm saying 10 times what number got me to 40? Well, 10 times 4 gave me 40. So what I do to the bottom, I do the exact same thing to the top. So 9 times 4 is 36. So now I need to go over to my next fraction and find its equivalent. 4 times 10 gave me 40. So what I do to the bottom, I do the exact same thing to the top. I'm going to multiply by the exact same number. So 1 times 10 is 10. Now I can go back and rewrite my problem with my new equivalent fractions. So instead of writing 9/10 like I had up there, I'm going to write 36 over 40. Bring down my subtraction symbol. And instead of writing 1/4 like my original problem, I'm going to use the equivalent fraction, 10 over 40. And now, since my denominators are the exact same, I can keep that 40, and I can just subtract 36 minus 10. So 36 minus 10 is actually 26 over 40. So this is my answer.